I think the first thing to just have some awareness of, let me just make sure this, is a little bit of history around I Can Dance and why it is that we do monitoring the way we do it and how it has evolved and some understanding on it. So we all know this logo that we wear proudly on our t-shirts every Saturday, and that the young people know tells them about who we are and what we are doing. And I thought that it would be helpful to understand that actually this logo was designed with very specific purpose in mind. And the purpose was firstly the eye. And the eye, you'll see in a lot of what we do at I Can Dance, is always ever present. And that eye represents the individual, that we offer an individualized approach to the experience. And that's why our monitoring follows an individual focus. The can, that we focus on what they can do and not what they haven't done. Our assessment process or our monitoring or our observations or noting development is all about what is the child doing? How are they able to do it? And not, oh, they didn't meet that. And this comes from quite a lot around the fact that we believe in measuring a child against themselves and not others. And that we are monitoring and measuring how that child is doing according to what we are wanting them to work towards and what works for them best. The ribbon shape of the dancer is because we believe that bodies, shapes, movement comes in lots of different forms. And we never want to purely define it. We want it to be able to have flow and for it to be able to shape as is needed. And so do we shape according to the child as is needed. And the shape and the child shapes with us. And the idea that believe it means that we can make it possible. The Believe It slogan is very much embedded in the idea that we believe that anything is possible with the right thinking, with the right strategies, and with the right support in place. Now, the colors of I Can Dance that I chose all those years ago when playing with the design was to emulate a flame. And the flame is about the idea that we are a flame in the darkness of the divide between those who can and those who can't. And that's that we are an emblem of being seen and celebrating what is possible. So let's talk a little bit about who we are as an organization. So our vision, which arches over everything that we are, is to celebrate disabled children and young people's abilities to enrich all lives. So all that we're trying to do is to celebrate them and to focus on their abilities and the belief that their abilities enriches ours and theirs, their families, and the wider community's lives. Our mission and purpose is to use a specialized approach / dance movement psychotherapy to enable every disabled child and young person to thrive through dance. The word I like there most importantly is thrive. And one of the reasons I chose that word thrive is because so often families, when their child is born with varying needs or disabilities, they're often told that they will fail to thrive. And that's a sort of technical term used. And so for us, we're saying they will thrive. And how do we help them to thrive? And the purpose and mission that we believe that this approach that we use at I Can Dance will enable them to thrive. So our goals are to nurture creativity, learning, and well-being, and we're going to focus on those. To build support and community, and to inspire change in perspectives. So we want to nurture creativity, learning, and well-being in each young person and each child. We want to build a supportive community and a sense of community for every family. And we want to inspire a change in perspectives by the wider community and those who we share I Can Dance's ethos with. So a little bit of history and overview of I Can Dance. So I Can Dance was originally started in 2006, but was registered as a charity only in 2010. So we are governed by a trustee board who are guardians of the charity. All the trustees are volunteers. So whilst I might be the founder and the CEO, and we have an executive team, we have to be monitored and overseen by a board, a trustee board. And they basically are the guardians of the gate to make sure that the decisions made are appropriate. Executive team lead the charity and make day-to-day financial decisions under the guidance of the trustees and as dictated by the budget. So executive team members are the members of the team that are leaders in making the day-to-day decisions. And the exec team is made up of myself as the CEO, Lewis as the Chief Operating Officer, and Peter, who's head of creative programs. But we are not just dictated by things we like. We're dictated by the vision, we're dictated by the budget, and we're dictated by our funders as well in working collaboratively with them. So charities have a budget and fundraise to meet the needs of the budget. So we constantly are fundraising, or we put in a budget that says, this is what we'd like to do this year. And then we fundraise for that budget. And if at any change occurs, then we have to make changes to that budget. We might need to offer less or more in a good situation of what we would like. We are monitored by the Charity Commission and have articles of association which determine our area of focus. So the Charity Commission oversees all charities in the country and checks that basically we are keeping our regulations, and that we have specific, what an articles of association is, it specifically identifies what we as a charity do and what our area of focus is. I Can Dance is characterized as a small charity because of our size of our budget, and we're not national. Funds are acquired through donations. Donations come from individual donors, and trusts and foundations, activities and fundraisers. So trusts and foundations are organizations or individuals that have set up organizations to donate to charities. And we apply to those types of organizations on a regular basis in order to be able to fund what we do. And some people do fundraisers for us. Some people just feel like being kind and donate for us. We put on events, so various things to enable us to be able to fund what it is that we want to do. Trusts and foundations require monitoring to assess we are meeting our charitable purpose. Funders want to see positive change and reflective practice. So all of this is to help you to understand where the monitoring sits in context. It's not just something that you're doing on a Saturday morning that's quite nice and that you hope sort of helps. Besides the fact that it will have impact on how we work, which we'll talk about, it also is directly related to how the charity can run, how the charity can be funded, how the charity is governed. So monitoring and evaluation is crucial to everything that we do. So why do we complete monitoring and evaluate our practice? The bottom line at the end of the day is because we also need to receive funds. And in order to be able to do what we do, we need funds to be able to do that. In order to receive funds, we need robust monitoring and evaluative practices. And on top of that, because we're trying to meet the vision of our organization, and that is to celebrate every young person, to give them the individualized approach and to make sure that their lives are enriched. And your monitoring enables you to reflect on your practice and the experience of the dancer to make sure that they truly are thriving and that they truly are being celebrated. So let's give some language to what monitoring is. So monitoring is systematically recording information. That's all. And I Can Dance has devised its own specialist approach to creating a systematic way of recording information of what we are seeing, what we are feeling, and what we are experiencing as we work with our dancers each Saturday. Evaluation is using the monitoring information to reflect on the progress of your work. So, as I said in one of the previous slides, funders want to see positive change. Parents want to see positive change. We all want to see positive change. And evaluating what we're doing and how we're doing it enables us to note those changes. Sometimes just being in it, we don't realize the experience. But being able to sit, reflect, plan, write, talk about the work enables us to truly understand our approach and whether this is creating a positive change for the dancer. Impact is what we share in our reporting, with families, with other funders. And impact is the change experienced by the dancer, both in the session and outside the space, i.e. other areas of life and their family. So we want to know what that impact is. And that's why we help invite the parents to be partners with us. We want to know that what we're doing, it has an impact on that young person's life. Now, I believe that all of us here absolutely believe that what we're doing each Saturday impacts their life. I agree with you, it does. But we need to be able to show evidence of that. And by the greater the impact, or the greater we can at least identify the impact and share that with funders, the greater then do funders feel more reliant on wanting to give us donations, because they don't want to give donations to an organization that they don't think really helps or doesn't necessarily relieve any isolation or sense of loneliness, or doesn't aid someone's life in any way. So we really need to be able to show that impact. So the way we write is really important. And the reporting is sharing that information on our various activities, outcomes, and the impact with our different audiences. And we find different ways of sharing. When we're back face-to-face, we share with the parents face-to-face, and we report on it. We have to report on it when we do monitoring for the funding that we've had, when we have to tell funders what we've been doing, or when we talk to parents, or when we do our annual report. Okay. Now, how do we gather the different information? And I think it's really important to understand the different levels of information we gather, because all of you have looked at different documents that I Can Dance has, and all of them fit into the bigger picture of how we cater for the needs of a child. So being informed, why do we gather information? And we gather information because we believe that being informed helps us serve the child and the young person best. I believe really strongly that you stand on the shoulders of others, or you stand together on the shoulders to hold the child. So if there is a really good speech and language therapy report, or a really good physio report, or the child has been to another therapist before that might really offer some strategies how best to work with that child, then we should gather it. We should use it as a base of catering for the child. So we will always ask parents for information when they join us. So when a parent and the carers and a child joins I Can Dance, we ask the parent to complete personal information, which is a detailed form about any medical histories or diagnosis, or any strategies around independence or toileting or communication, and that is filled out quite specifically. We then also ask them to complete a consent form, which allows us to record information, to take photos, to use videos as part of our storytelling as a charity. We also gather information by having ongoing conversations with parents and carers, getting their feedback, them telling us about things that have changed in the child's life. And all of those things, it helps us to inform our weekly practice and find ways of building a relationship with a dancer. So, for example, if a dancer, you discover that they have a particular interest, let's say in Little Mix, then we would use that information in the session, and we would choose those songs, or especially if they're perhaps feeling hesitant. So we have those conversations over time, all the time, trying to understand and better know the child. Practically, we only see the child 1 hour a week. The service we provide is such a detailed wraparound service that just really wants to look at the child holistically. And so we're trying to do this at best possible by gathering as much information that is helpful for us. It's also important to note that children change. Young people go through different stages of their life, and every different stage throws up different responses. Also, different things happen in family life which impact on their responses. And it's important to build those relationships with parents and young people and any professionals involved so that we are informed, and that enables us to do our job better. So each child, when they begin at I Can Dance, gets a My Journey. And that My Journey is literally that, noting the journey of them through the year with I Can Dance. And we're going to give you examples of that today. And that is the name for our monitoring system. Information is gathered through observations, conversations, and is ongoing. We are process focused, not results focused. So finding that balance between art and science, therapy and numbers, quantitative and qualitative, is always a challenge as an organization like ours, who are fostering creativity and well-being and work therapeutically. But it is really important that we can name and identify and categorize experiences. And so whilst we are completely process focused, not results led, we are presenting information. Our exchange with the children and our way of working with them is always process focused and always in relationship with them. We are reflexive practitioners. Reflexive means we bring it back to ourself. Reflexive means that you realize that you are part of this relationship, that you impact the child's experience, and that you impact how the child engages in the dance. We are their partners in the child and young person's journey and their ability to thrive. Our approach is relational, starting with the self, connecting with the other, and then opening up to the wider community. So I Can Dance a system of monitoring. Our monitoring philosophy is based on measuring the child, the young person, against themselves. We know that our young people do not fit within the norm standardized testings of mainstream schools. So the best way to work with them is to work with their own achievements and what they hope for and are planned for. So I Can Dance has created a personalized approach to monitoring where the parent, child, and dance partner are collaborators. So together, all of us are collaborating to get the best experience for the child. Monitoring is an internal, feel, sense, and external process, see, hear, and informs our weekly practice. So for an organization like ours that uses a therapeutic approach specifically based on dance movement psychotherapy, that considers the unconscious, the unspoken, the felt sense, it's really important that we connect to body work when monitoring, when thinking, when feeling, whilst integrating that or connecting that with what we see, what we hear in the child's experience. So the body is a resource. Monitoring is ideally completed in pairs. It will always be reviewed. So our monitoring system, when it was originally designed, was in person, and we would sit in pairs talking to each other about the experience. Because everything about our organization is relational, it is ideally done in pairs. This might not be as possible when you're working solely online. However, that paired experience will still be felt, that it will be reviewed. And what that means is that it will be looked at. Maybe someone might discuss it with you and say, well, let's think about it. Let's think about this wording. So you're never left monitoring on your own. It is always done in a system of holding within the team. Each term, we complete a series of monitoring, and we record what a child can do and not what they can't. Okay, so this is an example of what the My Journey actually looks like. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on it because you're going to look at that with lots of other people together when we go into our groups. But it just gives you an idea of how it's laid out. And we're going to discuss these words that are on the sheet in a little bit. But this is the layout of it. Each term is laid out like this, where you have the child's name, you'll have the team member's name, you'll have the strategies that have been chosen for them, you have the focus area that we're focusing on. So now our monitoring specifically focuses on creativity, learning, and well-being. These are 3 of the identified values that we have chosen that embody all that I Can Dance is trying to achieve. And that the focus of these 3 values is what we feel we are monitoring. Of course, there are other things that we see that might fall out of that box that's important for us to note. And it doesn't mean you only note things that you think fall under that category, but those are the defined ones specifically that we are focusing on. The indicators, we will talk about what that is and how we write that. Okay, so that's what a layout looks like. And then at the end of the 3 terms, the very last term, then we come together and the team member writes sort of summary comments, a review of the year and what they've experienced, sort of like those end of year comments. And then the parent, carer, and the child have opportunities to gather their voice and to give comments. And there's a process in how we do that. Finding the child's voice is really important for us, and finding ways to do that under difficult circumstances is something that we're constantly thinking and reflecting about. So understanding the My Journey document. So we have these 3 core principles, which are building blocks of creativity, learning, and well-being that we are focusing on, and we're going to define them a little bit. So creativity is defined as to engage with and express themselves freely through their body. So that's what we're trying to focus on in the creativity. The dancer expresses themselves freely to create new and interesting ways of connecting, dancing and performing. It is embodied by free flow of movement to create an original dance. So creativity is about their bodily engagement. How is it flowing? How is it being? How is it moving? How is it shaping? And how does it create the dance? So we'll be monitoring that for the child. Learning is defined as to develop new skills in dance, communication, and group work. So whilst creativity is the free flow of movement and that which is about expression, learning is a bit more defined as what skill have I seen this child develop? And is that skill specifically related to a dance skill? Have they learned to use their arm in a specific way, place their feet in a specific way, learn to count or feel the beat in a specific way? Is their ability to communicate? Have you seen them learn to turn take better? Have you seen them learn to ask questions better or to use their communication aid more clearly? And are they able to experience the group? Are they able to sit in the group, take turns with the group, and be able to really think about what it is to be a group member? The dancer is learning and developing dance skills, using their body as a communication tool and developing group work skills like turn taking, listening, and asking questions. The skill may be emerging. And the last thing is our well-being. And we define it as to develop greater awareness of themselves and others, to be able to build positive relationships and to grow in confidence. So the well-being really focuses about their attitude to self, their understanding of self, their understanding of another, and their understanding of they're building their confidence. So the dance is developing a better understanding of themselves, connecting with their peers, creating a positive relationship with their dance partner. They've grown in confidence and self-belief, with inner change is noticeably outwardly. So creativity, free flow, learning, specific skill, well-being, experience of self and other. So what is a focus? So on that sheet, you would see we focus on specific areas, and that which is a child is working towards within a specific area of development. It is the focus of the intervention, i.e. the goal or the aim. The focus area can be specific to the dancer, or it can be general to the group, okay? So the focus area in one of those categories. What are strategies? Strategies are what we apply to help us to support the child's development within the focus area. Strategies will be specific to their child and their needs. Strategies should be sought from a variety of areas of learning, such as social, emotional, sensory, physical, communication, and visual. So strategies is how we apply it. So the focus is the sort of what we're trying to achieve. The strategies, how we're going to try and achieve that. How are we going to do it? So do they need a visual prompt? Do they need a prop? Do they need me to hold their hand? Do they need me to use a different communication tool? We're going to talk a bit about strategies. Okay, the indicators is the what. What is an indicator? It's the evidence that the child is working on that focus. So their focus might be being able to experience creative flow, and then it might now be, and how do you do that? And it might be through a choice of scarves or props and a use of music. And then the indicator is what you see the child do with the focus, with the strategy, and how the child does it. So they work together, and the indicator is the evidence, the example of those changes in what you see. So a few tips when completing monitoring. Be specific. Don't speak as if it could have been any day or anything. Be really specific in the language that you choose so that it's clear. Make sure your language is of a high standard, no spelling errors, and make sure it's grammatically correct. If you need help with that, just say, we're working together. Write in the first person, as you are part of the relationship the child is experiencing. Relationship is the key element to a child's experience. So remember, it's not over there, it's here, it's you and them together. When she moved, I moved towards, and then this happened, and so we see it unfold. Be reflexive. Where are you in the child, young person's experience? We focus on what the child, young person can do and not what they can't. This needs to be indicated in our language, both in what we say and what we write. Make sure that your language is positive and clear. We measure the child against themselves and not others. Monitoring is a process, not an outcome. And you and the child are in constant process. So we never just go, oh, we've arrived, it's done, just move on. It's always evolving. Monitoring is best completed in pairs, as we've already discussed. So remember, we evaluate the final experience when we write the final comments and a plan for the next year. It is a cycle of planning, action, and reflection, and monitoring and evaluation should be fun and creative.